My current count of active series is 18. Guys, I love this book so much. I love this book so much. You can't make me believe it. You can't, okay? Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. We are doing our very first reading vlog of 2026. So welcome back to the reading vlogs. And what better way to start the new year by finishing off some more series, staying true to those reading goals of committing to series and finishing them quickly rather than letting them just drag on and on and on and on. We're going to start off the year right by finishing or continuing some of the series I'm in the middle of. Let's see what number we are starting the year off with. My current count of active series is 18. So this includes all the series that have books out that I can continue, or at least have the next books announced with a release date. Yeah, current series count, we are starting 2026 with 18 in progress, and hopefully throughout the year we will just continue to whittle that number down and down and down and down. So first up on the roster, I actually started this a couple days ago, but I'm currently reading A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is the prequel to The Priory of the Orange Tree, so I'm counting this book as part of the main series. I know she released another prequel that's a little bit shorter. I think it's novella length. I think it's called Among the Burning Flowers. I'm not counting that one as like officially something you have to read to complete the series, but I am counting this one in there because it's like quite a substantial book, and I feel like even if it's a prequel, it deserves to be considered as part of the series. So yeah, this is what I'm currently reading, and for me, like in my mind, this will technically complete the series for me. Now, this one is a little bit of a chunker, as I mentioned. It's 850 pages, but I feel like ever since like last year, getting into the Stormlight Archive and everything, reading literally 1,300 page books, I feel like this one seems just like so short to me right now. I was really intimidated by the length like most of last year, and now my perception has entirely changed, and I'm like, this is a piece of cake. What do you mean? Why was I intimidated at this before? So that's just a little something funny that has changed with my reading attitude, I guess, since last year. But I am about 200 pages into this. So if you don't know what this one is about, this one and Priory are both high fantasies. Priory was pretty self-contained. Like, you could read Priory of the Orange Tree as a standalone and not need more, but this prequel I think just gives more like backstory, the lore, and everything in this world, and these books are just so beautiful. We follow multiple characters, most of them are women, but we do follow one male character. All of our perspectives basically just come from all sides of the world. So our POV chapter switches are literally titled like north, south, east, west, and our characters are all from different regions with very different political systems, religious systems. Their beliefs are completely different from each other. They're so unique, and we just follow them as they deal with trying to keep this like big bad force in the world called the Nameless One. We see the different ways they try to basically like prevent the Nameless One from returning, and there's so many just unique layers to the story. I feel like the theme of religion and like what gods or deities you worship and look up to really play a big role in all of our character arcs. Some of our characters are working to try and like spread their religion, convert other regions to their religion, and then some of them almost feel like culty, really, in the level of control they like having over their people, and some of them try and keep their people like really isolated and cut off from the rest of the world. It's really interesting to see how these different characters have been brought up and then how differently they navigate trying to keep this big bad at bay. There also are some really interesting like mother-daughter relationships that I'm seeing in this one, exploring the dynamics of like what makes a good mother, how these different types of mothers show their love in different ways, even though some of them are not in obvious ways. So yeah, so far, beautiful read. The writing is stunning. I really do love Samantha Shannon writing. I feel like though, when you are getting into her books, when you read the first like 100 pages, you might be completely at a loss as to what is happening, because I feel like she uses a lot of terminology for her worlds. It's just one of those worlds where every character will go by 3 different names depending on who's talking to them, what region they're from, like what relation they have to the character. Like there will be various different names for every character, and I found that to be the case for this world and also her Bone Season world. So sometimes I feel like because of the multiple name thing, like for the first 100 pages, you're just like, I'm just going along with the flow. I'm not quite entirely sure what is going on, but then like once it clicks, it clicks. And at one moment you will flip the page and realize you do get what's going on. So I have definitely settled into this one now and am fully just enjoying the story and am able to enjoy the story. I'm excited to continue. I've read 200 pages, which means I have 650 more for this book. I'm gonna continue it as our first read for this first reading vlog of the year. Hello. It's actually been so long since I've given you an update. If I'm gonna be completely honest with you, it's been, I think, like 6 days. And this is the longest I've ever gone like within a reading vlog where I have not given you an update, because this is also the slowest I have ever read a book. At least in the past few years since I started BookTube, I guess, like this is the slowest I have ever read a book, but it's actually been quite a good experience reading this one slow. So yeah, it has been about 6 days, I think, since our last update, and I'm now on page 500. So I've literally been reading like 50 pages a day, which is so unlike my normal reading speed. Like, you guys know like how quickly I usually devour books, but I just think like I have been currently reading this over the holidays. So I know this is the first reading vlog that's coming out in 2026, but this book I have started in 2025, like right in the last week. So we've been, you know, like having the holidays. I've just celebrated Christmas and I've just now currently gotten into that like downtime between Christmas and New Year's. And I feel like this time of the year is always so funny to me, because I always like feel like, oh, there's so much time over the holidays, you know, everyone's taking a break, you're gonna have so much time to relax and read and everything. But then when it comes time to actually like experience this time of the year, this lull between Christmas and New Year's, I always find I'm just like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like as much time as you think. Like this little period of time is always just a blur, and I always think I'm gonna read so much during this period of like downtime because I have nothing else to do other than like celebrate the holidays and everything, obviously. But I think just after all the festivities and family time and everything, which I love, I do just feel like very tired afterwards, and I find like my attention span is not as good. Like I literally just want to rot during this weird time of the year. So yeah, I've been reading this very slowly, but I will say, yeah, that the slow experience of consuming this book has been very good, and I think it suits the story well because it does span over a long-ish period of time. The book is split into a few parts. We're on part 4, I think now. I think there's gonna be like 6 parts total in the book, but between like parts 1 and 2, for example, there was a several month time jump. So the story is very long spanning, and I think it just like really suits it to also read it over a longer span of time. I don't know, something about it is really working. I also just think, like, as I was saying, there's a lot of emphasis on mother-daughter connection. I think with themes like that, you just need the time to develop those. Like, it is a very character-driven story. There is a lot happening in the plot, but there's a lot to do with the characters, their relationships with their family, with their mothers in particular. So I think experiencing that over like a week or just a long time is doing it favors. I don't think these books need to be that long, but I think it's good that they're this long. Like, the stories themselves could probably be condensed if you wanted to condense them and if you wanted a more action-driven story, but as I mentioned again, a lot of it has to do with the character complexities, the character development, how our characters change over time through a series of different like things happening to them. So I think on one hand, if you're reading this book for plot, you could say this book could be so much shorter, but if you're reading this book for character, I think it fits. One of those multi-POV stories as well, where you're following all these different characters on their different separate journeys, doing their own thing, you know, but like you can see like the potential of like where their paths might cross, and then when they do cross, when it's confirmed, it's just like such an exciting moment. I'm having a good time reading this, but I'm on page 500, so I think we have 350 pages left to go. Yeah, that's my little reading update for now. It's good to see you again. It's been a little while since our last update. 150 pages left, so we're gonna finish off this book today. I'm still really enjoying it, but I feel like the pacing is getting a little bit strange now because there were a lot of things that just happened that I thought would happen at the climax of the book, and it felt like we were sort of like pushing into, you know, like that big battle moment in a fantasy story. But then that moment passed, and then we went back into this like slower paced story, more of a build-up phase again, and that kind of confused me a little bit as we're getting to like the last portion of this book. I feel like that was just an interesting pacing choice to make, but then I'm only now starting to come to terms with the fact that not everything in this story will be concluded in this book because this is a prequel, and like I knew that there were so many connections in this book and like plot lines that only get concluded in Priory of the Orange Tree. So like in my mind, I always knew like, yeah, this isn't going to be concluded, but I'm only now just realizing that like, yeah, at the end of this book, when it's done, like we're not gonna get everything wrapped up, even though I know it wraps up later, like in another book that I previously read. So it's just a little bit of a strange feeling, and it might explain a little bit as to why the pacing seems a little weird at the end of this book, because we're not really concluding the story as a standalone, as a one-off. We are setting up for Priory of the Orange Tree, which happens after this one. So yeah, just a little bit of a strange feeling there, but I am hoping that we do get at least like a good solid conclusion for these specific characters that we're following, even though like the world issues won't all be solved in this book. I'm hoping that our character arcs have a good resolution for each and every one of them. So we'll see what happens. Let's read the last 150 pages of this. Okay, this was good. This was very good. Definitely a very well done prequel. As I mentioned, it is just like a little bit of an open-ended ending, obviously, because the story's technically not done. This is a prequel, but I am happy with where we wrapped every individual character. But yeah, I think this was a beautiful story. I think we just followed all of our characters really coming into their strengths, and I always love fantasy stories like that. A lot of emphasis, as I mentioned, on motherhood, daughterhood, how you were raised, how you challenge the ideas that you were raised with, but also respecting that everyone around you grew up with like certain beliefs and things that were instilled in them. So you don't want to be too radical sometimes because you don't want everyone to turn on you, but you kind of have to just choose your own battles. And I did love all of the romantic subplots in this book. And I love how so many of them are queer romance subplots. I do just think some of the pacing was a little bit strange, and I found the same thing with Priory. Like, I really enjoy the slow starts, the more character-driven first halves of the books, but I feel like the climax, the big battle moments, kind of lose me. So that's definitely something interesting to think about. I also do think that, I know this is a little bit of a divisive topic, but I do think that these books should be read in publication order. So read Priory first, and then read this one after, even though this one technically is like chronologically set before Priory. I just think with the reveals you get in the story and the meaning you get behind both of them, Priory definitely hits harder first as its own standalone, and I wouldn't recommend reading this one first because the information and the stories that are building in this book really would spoil a lot of some of the biggest reveals that happen in Priory. So if you read this one first, you would have more knowledge on the world, but that would make Priory less fun to read because then you're missing some of that mystery, and yeah, some of those big dramatic reveals would not be big dramatic reveals anymore. Those are very important moments in Priory. So yeah, Priory first. I also do think the world building is a little bit more gentle in Priory, where in this one you get a lot of information thrust to you real quick at the beginning, which is fine if you've already read Priory and you already know some of the context of the lore and everything, but I feel like diving into this one without knowing that previous knowledge would be a little tricky. So that's my recommendation. I'm gonna give this a 4.25. I really enjoyed it. I think Samantha Shannon's writing is absolutely beautiful, and I did like this a little bit more than Priory. I think it is just a touch stronger. I think the characters are stronger, so I gave Priory a 4, and this one's getting a 4.25. But that was a wonderful read. Let's pick up our next one. I'm just picking it up here from my monthly TBR for January, but Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. Oh my goodness, it's finally happening. We're getting into arc 2 of the Red Rising series. I feel like I've talked so much about the series in the past few months in different reading vlogs, wrap-ups, etc. So I feel like I don't need to explain what Red Rising is. So yeah, we're just gonna dive straight into this one. I'm really excited. I'm a little bit scared because I've heard that there is quite a big like jump or difference between the first original trilogy versus this second era. So I'm just really curious to see like what that means, what that entails. Like, what do you mean there's a big jump? What do you mean, like, how different is it? How different can it be? So call me intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued, but I'm so excited. I know that one main difference is that this arc 2 is multi-POV, where in the first trilogy we just follow Darrow. So I'm excited to see how that pans out because, like, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I love Red Rising so much, but Darrow is not the star for me. I mean, I have grown to care more about him over Golden Sun and Morning Star, but I mean, just compared to a lot of the secondary characters, he is not the star of the show for me. So I'm curious to see like what multi-POVs we get in this one. I'm gonna pick up Iron Gold. Guys, I love this book so much. I love this book so much. Oh, thank goodness, really, because I was not really like that worried about not loving this one, but just from what I've heard from most people's reading experiences, I have heard that a lot of people think this one's the weakest book in the Red Rising series, and I've had a lot of people tell me that this one's a little bit hard to get through, but you just kind of have to do it. Like, you just have to get through it. You have to do it so you can get to the masterpiece that is Lightbringer. So I was like, I was a little scared. I was like, oh my gosh, how about if I don't like this one? How about if it does feel like actual work to get through? How about if it feels like a slog? And you guys lied to me. I don't know what happened. I feel like the internet has lied to me because I am obsessed. I am loving this so much. It's so good. It's definitely a bit of an interesting dynamic because we are stepping into this world like kind of mid-story. Like, yes, we did conclude the original trilogy chapter, I want to say, like that era up to Morningstar. We did have a nice conclusion there, but what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish in this one is definitely something that like you saw at the end of Morningstar as something open-ended. Like, we knew we had to do this. Like, we knew we would be here in this era of the story. So we're stepping into this already half-built story, and we are following for some part characters that we already know. Like, one of our POVs is Darrow. We do still get his perspective in this book, but on top of that, we get new point of views added. And I didn't know like what additional characters we would follow. I was honestly thinking or expecting, I guess, we would be following more of the primary secondary characters from the first era, like just more of the main secondary characters, but that doesn't seem to be the case. We are following either completely new characters or characters that we heard of a little bit in the first trilogy, and now I guess they're gonna play a larger role in the story. So we're following like fairly unknown characters as our alternating POVs outside of Darrow. And so it is interesting stepping into this story like that's already half-baked. You already know what you're expecting, but then you have some new characters that you're following. So it's like not entirely brand new, but it's a little bit new. I am immediately already attached to all of the new POVs. I think the way we met them was very well done, very strong, because we met them in various stages of distress, and I feel like meeting a character while they're in distress is like one of the strongest ways to meet a character, because one, you learn how they deal with struggle, and two, you just like your heartstrings like hurt for them, you know, immediately. And so it feels like I'm just immediately bonded with these new characters. I also enjoy how we're getting such different perspectives. We're not just getting a bunch of similar perspectives from a similar group of people. Like Darrow, our protagonist, as we know him, is a red who had to become a gold. So he is this like mixed product of his red upbringing, but also with gold values instilled in him. So we're so familiar with gold and red, and so familiar with his perspective and his form of rage and his values and his reasoning of why he does things. But now we're seeing characters from the other colors with other experiences, with other values and other things that they want in the world. And we're seeing how Darrow's actions have affected all of them differently, because like Darrow Darrow still, like, he really only thinks of himself and like the world in general as like a big item, but he doesn't really focus on the individual person too much, like how his actions, how his rebellion have actually affected these people on an individual level. And so I'm just love seeing that. It's like, okay, we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish in the first trilogy, but does that mean everything is all happy rainbows, sunshines, and whatever? No. And we're really seeing the true aftermath of our characters' actions. It's also just so nice seeing like our characters aged. I feel like I have followed these characters throughout their entire life because we started Red Rising with Darrow. He was like a teenager, right? Was he like 17, 18, 19? I feel like he was in his like older teens. And throughout the first trilogy, I think by the end of it, he was like 23 or something like that. And now he's 33. So we have jumped 10 years. A lot of our characters that we know and love are in such a different stage of life, have such different priorities. And it's just like, there's something wholesome seeing them in their older years now, but also like so painful because I know that there's still so much pain to experience throughout the series. But yeah, this is so good so far. I'm so happy about it. I am also 150 pages in, by the way. So I'm gonna continue Iron Gold, but so far so good. I also started tearing up at page 103, so I'm already on the Pierce Brown roller coaster of emotions. Let's keep going. Guys, I have literally just been devouring this. Like, not a care in the world that I'm in the middle of a reading vlog, not a care about anything. I've just been reading and reading and reading. I don't know what happened here, but I am close to the end of Iron Gold now. I have about 100 pages left, so this is the moment, you know? Like, this is where stuff's gonna happen. I mean, like, stuff has been happening throughout the entire book, and I have loved every single page of this book. There's just something so fun about it because it feels truly like a first book because we're meeting some new characters, we're setting some situations up. Like, it feels very much like the plot structure of a first book, but we're in this world that we've already developed, that we already know, that we already love. So it's like a first book, but you don't have to do the world building because you already have all that knowledge. So it's like a first book, but even easier to get into. There's also, oh my goodness, there is some sort of like a Six of Crows feeling vibe in this book. It's like Red Rising meets Six of Crows, and it's probably only feeling that way because we have this heist kind of thing going on and some semblance of like a miscellaneous crew and all of that. And yes, some of it, like one part of this book is giving me kind of Six of Crows vibes, and that's just a lot of fun to read about as well. Obviously, like a very different story, but I think it's just the heist thing, honestly, that's feeling similar. There's also something that like recently just happened in the plot that I don't believe. I don't believe it. I feel like after reading the roller coaster that is Morning Star, I feel like I've had to close my heart just a little bit because like I don't trust anything anymore and I just feel like I need to protect my heart. And so yeah, there's something that's happened that I don't believe one bit. I don't believe it. I haven't accepted it. If that thing has actually indeed happened, I will be heartbroken. But for now, I'm not accepting it as a truth. But okay. Last 100 pages, let's finish this up. Genuinely, I am in denial right now. I am in such denial. I haven't even like been able to open up my feelings to a certain thing that happened in this book because I'm still in denial, okay? I just don't believe it. I just don't. You can't make me believe You can't make me believe it. You can't, okay? We're gonna leave that not even in the back of my mind. It's not in my mind. I'm gonna expel it because I just don't know. Anyways, I finished this book. I think I'm gonna give this one a 4.5. Such a strong book. Loved it so much. It definitely wasn't as like roller coastery or flashy as something like Golden Sun or Morning Star, but it was so good in its own way. Overall, I really did enjoy meeting our new characters, seeing different viewpoints, like coming from very different perspectives outside of our normal circles of the characters that we already know. Definitely added a whole other layer to this world, and then also just like seeing the aftermath of what happened. I feel like in so many of these like fantasy or sci-fi series, like you get the ending of the story and you get this this victorious feeling, but then you don't actually see what came out of that, like really what happens after that point. So it just feels so realistic that like things aren't perfect. There's still things we need to work on. There are still struggles in the world, and like a lot of these things that we previously turned a blind eye on just to achieve victory, like those things are still out in the world and, you know, causing issues now. And then, yeah, I just love seeing the 30-year-old versions of my favorite characters. Like, they just seem even more human now. Now that they're older, now that they have, like, all of these different types of feelings and responsibilities and emotions, like, they just feel even more like humans. And I can't wait to continue and read Dark Age and then Lightbringer. I love this world so much. But that's Iron Gold. I'm gonna go pick up our third read for this reading vlog. It's just over there on my TBR. It's a very green book as well, but you guys probably already guessed it. I'm gonna read A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir next. So this is the third book in the Ember Quartet, so the second last to the series. It's a dystopian fantasy series. It sits in the YA category, but like gonna be completely honest with you, these books read as more of a mature YA. There are darker themes than you would normally expect in a YA novel. And we started the series with two POVs. One is Laia, who is in the Scholars faction of this world, and the Scholars have been oppressed. At the very beginning of the first book, Laia's brother gets captured, and so Laia ends up joining this rebellion force and going undercover as a slave into the Marshall Empire to try and help save her brother. Then our second main POV that we start with is Elias, and Elias is a part of the Marshall Empire. He is actually in like the Marshall Military Academy, and he's training to be one of the most elite soldiers that the Marshalls have. But Elias also has a little bit of this conscience, this guilty conscience at the beginning of the story, and he thinks the Marshalls don't really seem like they're great leaders. They don't seem like they're really doing the right thing and standing for the right values. So as he's training to become part of this like high elite military for the Marshalls, he's also having a lot of self-doubts within him. And our story goes from there as we see Laia and Elias's paths intertwine as they go about their journeys trying to achieve what they need to achieve. And we also in the second book did unlock another POV. So I'm really curious to see in this third book if we end up unlocking another POV or if we stick to the three that we have currently. I really enjoyed the first book. I thought it was such a strong start to the series. The second book I was a little mixed on. I enjoyed the story of it, but I think some of the writing and the pacing and the way things were being told was a little iffy for me. So we'll see what happens with this third book. I have heard that this third book and then also the fourth book are absolutely incredible, especially the fourth book. So I'm excited to continue. My heat has just turned on. I think you can hear that. So I'm gonna stop talking and we're gonna get into A Reaper at the Gates. Alright guys, I've made it past the halfway point of A Reaper at the Gates. These books are definitely quicker reads, especially compared to the Red Rising series. So I have about 150 pages left, I think, and I don't know. I feel like since the first book in the series, the sequels have been a little bit underwhelming. I don't want to say like that underwhelming because I am still enjoying these books. Like they are still enjoyable to read, but I just feel like I had really high expectations for this series as a whole because they are so very loved. A lot of readers whose reading taste aligns really well with me really love this series as well. Like I know Freya absolutely loves this series, especially the fourth book, but I just haven't really felt connected to the characters characters since book 1. And I don't know if this one is just suffering from the results of being read after Iron Gold, which belongs to like a god tier series for me, and this belongs to like a good series to me. So I'm just feeling underwhelmed after reading such a good book from such a good series. My brain is, I don't know, just trying to compare this with Iron Gold, which is not fair because they're from two different like age categories, different categories of books in general, but I'm just not connecting. It's so weird because I think the plot is so interesting. I think the story and what's happening to all of our characters individually is really cool. It is unique. Everyone is going in directions that like I wouldn't have really expected, especially for a YA fantasy series. So the plot I am liking, and this was also the case for book 2 in the series, is I enjoyed the plot, but I didn't really feel connected emotionally. I've been trying to think of why that is, and I think one of the main reasons is maybe at least 2 of our characters I feel like have been in a very monotone mood ever since the first book. I think in the first book, all of our characters went through more ups and downs in terms of mood and vibe. But ever since then, in the second and third books, although our plots have been fun, the mood's been the same. And so without those like ups and downs of like fast moments, of quieter moments, I'm just not getting connection with the characters. I also am a little bit surprised at how separate our character stories are in this one in particular. Like obviously they are still connected, but I am surprised because I feel like in the first 2 books all of our character stories were a lot more closely intertwined, and in this one it does feel like everyone's going in their separate directions, although I do know like everything that is happening is related and is connected in some way to one another, and I can see that. It does feel like 3 separate stories. I don't know, it's a really strange feeling. It's a really strange feeling because it's like, yeah, the story is so much fun, but like, why do I not feel deeply for the characters? Like there have been moments where some very emotional things have happened, or like moments that should feel emotional, but I haven't felt emotional over them. But I do think, or I do hope that like the mood is about to change. I think some things in the plot have started happening where I'm like, okay, this feels a little bit different. The pacing is a little bit different. And so I'm getting a little bit more like into it now near the end of this book. So gonna continue, gonna finish the last 150 pages and we'll see what happens, because I think I've heard from a lot of you guys that after reading the ending of this 3rd book, I will want to pick up the 4th book immediately. I'm guessing there's some sort of a cliffhanger ending, but we'll see what happens. Let's finish this one. Okay. I just finished. I will say the ending of this, strongest part of the book. Definitely brought it up a notch there. So that's a good thing. I mean, it's setting up for an interesting, of course my heat turns on right now. The second I want to start talking to you guys, one sec. I'm just gonna turn it off. How dare the heat system in my house try to warm us up while I'm trying to talk to my friends. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yes, this book right here. The ending, yes, strongest part of the book. There were some moments there at the end that I guess like broke up the pace. Like we finally picked up the speed. Not that like the rest of the book felt slow. The rest of the book just felt the exact same pace all the way through, which like on one hand might sound like a good thing because it's like, oh, but it stayed consistent, so like isn't that a good thing? But I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't think it is, because for me a good book is a roller coaster. You want fast moments, you want slow moments, you don't want the whole book to be fast and you don't want the whole book to be slow. So the ending was good, but the rest of the book just felt, yeah, very monotone with the pacing and the mood, the emotions of all of our characters, I think, or at least 2 out of the 3. I do also still think that our 3rd added POV in this series is the most interesting. I did feel that way while reading book 2, and I think that is still the case. Our 2 original point of views, I feel like since book 1 have fallen flat for me. Like I've really lost my connection to them, which is so strange. I feel like usually once I start caring about certain characters, I will continue to care about them. them no matter what happens. Like if I've already forged that connection, that relationship with a character, I already feel attached, you know? It's hard to break an attachment like that, but it's happened in this series, which is really strange. I will say though, overall, this series is still enjoyable to read. The world as it's developed over the books is so interesting. It's become a lot more ghostly, like more spiritual and like more nightmarish than I would have predicted from the first book. So I like that little turn it's gone in. I love the little like ghosty thing happening. There's also a big emphasis on prophecy and fate and like foretelling the future, but trying to figure out like what that prophecy is actually pointing to. You know, it's like not a completely straightforward prophecy. You still have to figure out things along the way. And yeah, I do think the end of the book has set up an interesting premise for the fourth book. So I'm still looking forward to reading the fourth one. I also know the fourth one is Freya's favorite of the series. I am still looking forward to continuing the series, but I don't know, maybe this quartet would have been better as a trilogy. There's been just something about the second and third book that has felt a little bit off to me. Overall, I think I'm gonna rate this a 3.75. It was by no means a bad read at all. It's just like after reading like a 4.5 to a 5-star book like Iron Gold was, it's just hard to live up to something like that. But okay, that was A Reaper at the Gates, and I'm actually sitting here because I have my series tracker open in front of me. I think one of the most satisfying things about these like continuing series reading vlogs is updating the series tracker at the end of it. So let's just quickly clip you in. Okay, here is the series tracker. So yeah, current count here at the bottom you can see is 18 series. So I just read A Reaper at the Gates here. So I've now read 3 out of 4. And the fourth book to read is A Sky, what is it called? A Sky Beyond the Storm. Yes, Sky Beyond the Storm. I did read A Day of Fallen Night, so that's done. I've read 2 out of 2, and yes, I do know there's like a novella or like a shorter prequel that's attached to this world, but I'm not counting that as something I need to read to finish the series. To me, the Roots of Chaos series is finished. I feel like Among the Burning Flowers is just like an additional bonus read. I'm actually gonna mark, okay, this is complete as a series, and I'm gonna mark Roots of Chaos. Are you ready? Finished! And then what was the third one? Oh, Iron Gold, obviously. So Iron Gold is done. Next to read is Dark, why can't I type? Dark Age, I'm ready to continue, and I've read 4 out of the 6 available books out. I'm so excited for that one, you guys. I'm so excited. I've had a lot of you guys tell me that Dark Age is really emotional, is like a little bit tough to read because of how dark it gets. So I'm a little scared, but also those books tend to be the ones that affect me the most, and I love experiencing those types of books. So hi Sage, I know. On one hand, I'm really excited, and on the other hand, I'm terrified. But anyways, that brings us to the end of this series reading vlog. We managed to continue some series, and we brought my overall series count down by 1. So I think we did a good job this week. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know what series you are prioritizing reading right now. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!